Hey everybody, welcome back to the Stone Face Reactions. I'm Theta, and we are here with, well, what is probably going to be the last Jujutsu Kaisen for a while. We have officially finished Season 2, and we'll be waiting for Season 3 to come out, which I'm actually kind of excited for. I think, well, I haven't even said what we're doing yet. Obviously, we're here for character ranking and top 5 episodes. The only people who don't know that would have been, I guess, the people on stream with me while I'm recording this. But otherwise, if you are watching the YouTube or on the Patreon, you clicked the link, you saw what the title was. No reason. So let me preface this ahead of time, as I might make some not decisive, well, I guess they are decisive. I meant derisive statements, which is to say, I want to preface that when I was watching Jujutsu Kaisen, I was often in my mind comparing it to all of the shonen anime that, sorry, I can't say that I grew up with because anime came out like when I, not anime came out, anime in the United States where I was able to see it was like late 90s, and I was already, well, I was after 15, I don't know. I didn't grow up with it. I don't consider my young adult years to be growing up with. But there were other anime that I do consider being my starter animes, and I compare Jujutsu Kaisen to those. So your Naruto's, your Bleaches. I didn't watch One Piece until way later, so I'm not gonna put that into the big three. For me, it was just the big two. And Jujutsu Kaisen is a show I often mostly compare to Bleach. So in my mind, the first season of Jujutsu Kaisen did not live up to Bleach. I was often disappointed and not understanding the storylines of the first season of Jujutsu Kaisen. So in that way, I you can probably see it on my reaction face, even though this channel is called Stone Face Reactions. In that way, I was not so happy with the first season. And then the movie comes around, and the movie is pretty good, right? But unfortunately, it's also a prequel to the first season, which is very confusing to me. Not confusing to me now, confusing to me then. And I did not think that that added to the quality of the first season. And then season 2 rolls around, season 2 starts almost, as good as the movie, I'd say. And it maybe dips a little bit in the middle for me, and then just goes way up at the end. So you'll find that most of my opinion comes from like season 2 of the anime. And the thing that I'm like failing to say here is I found I'm rambling already. Some of you are out there like, shut the hell up, get into whatever the fuck you're doing. Or have skipped. Uh Whatever. I find, and this is probably I should have said this during like the top 5 episode thing that I'm gonna do later, but I'm gonna put this here at the front. That the end of season 2, for me, as I'm gonna go backtrack a little bit. Season 1, if as I'm comparing it to Bleach, is like the very beginning of Bleach. It's the slow part of the opening of Bleach where we're like finding out what being a Shinigami is about Ichigo's like backstory with his like dead mom and what he's doing with his two sisters and his dad, and the people that keep showing up and interrupting stuff from Soul Society. Because before we know what Soul Society is, that's what season 1 is. It's really weak as compared to the rest of Bleach. And then we get to season 2, and season 2 for me is the Soul Society arc of Bleach. Really strong, really packed full of fights. We really get to know what everyone's all about and what their ultimate goals are. And literally the end of season 2 for me is like when we find out that Aizen is the bad guy, and Aizen takes off and leaves to do his ultimate plan, whatever the hell it is. And just like with Bleach, I'm really excited to find out what, I don't know what his name is. Brain, can't remember his name. Um, whatever Brain's ultimate plan is now that Aizen has been released, you know? So that's why I'm more excited to watch season 3 of Jujutsu Kaisen than the disappointment that I've been describing for everything that's already come by. So, now that you know that and have probably tuned out, this guy doesn't like Jujutsu Kaisen, let's go into the character rankings and the top 5 episodes. And we have, of course, an F tier. And I should also mention that these are rankings based on fan polling that we did with the audience that watches these and clicks on links in our anywhere we put them. Take all of those numbers and we make an average of them. And then I take my own polling and then we average my numbers with the average of everybody else's and make an average of that. And that scoring is, of course, based on 5 different traits, which I always forget when I go to say them off the top of my head. Iconic appearance, significant backstory, emotional resonance, character development, something else. And there's 5 traits. Click on a poll sometime, you'll see all the 5 traits. So the lowest you could get would be a 10, I believe. Actually, on these charts it says 5 and no, I guess yeah, the lowest you could get would be a 5 because it's 5 on your poll, 5 on my poll, averaged out would be a 5 total. So the lowest you get is a 5. The highest you can get is a 50. So the best character in any show would get a 50. Or could get a 50. So, of course, it's also entirely dependent on you and your memory. So, like, if you don't remember a character, you're probably not going to score them pretty high. And I think that's what happens here. Izukawa, I don't remember who this guy is. And granted, again, this isn't all my score. This is half audience score. So, I guess a good portion of people out there don't remember who Izukawa is either. So, Iguchi, of course, from the school that Yuji first goes to. So, I at least remember him. Kokun, one of the 2 star. God, both organizations have star in their name, so it wasn't a good thing for my brain to latch on. One of the star groups, the one that has the good uniforms. Really, I think Kokun here is riding on the coolness of the uniform. Because if I remember right, it's Bayer who has the talking lines, and Bayer actually has a pretty good, not a pretty good personality. He has some personality. Takagi, the coach from that same school. I'm going to admit here, I don't remember who Ida is. I might have been the one dragging Ida down on this. I don't know. Ida, I don't remember spinny got glasses guy. Tsubasa is the bitch from the school that Junpei comes from. I guess essentially the cause of most of his problems. Since, all the guys that are around Tsubasa are basically responding to her, and she's like egging them on to beat the shit out of Junpei. So she is just like a background character because she's not even the one doing it. She is the inspiration for them to do it. Anyway, that is our F tier. Going up to D tier. Shota Ito, I believe, is the guy who, I don't know if he actually recants for being a bully. He certainly gets put in front of that fat teacher, and the fat teacher, like, talks down to him. He is like the bully that escapes Junpei's wrath, if I'm right, though. Shu Kang, I believe, is the guy who is helping, Toji? Or he's like the guy who's paying Toji. Like, he represents the people who are paying Toji to do the job that he eventually does, but I don't remember anything else about him. I know there was an interesting point in my mind about what organization he represents, but he also like gets away. He doesn't like get killed in the wrath of Gojo or anything. Tachi Kaneda, he is, I think, the only victim of the bridge curse, right? He gets killed in the doorway of his building complex. I'll say, not a big fan of that arc either. It's like we get introduced to Megumi's sister, and that's as a concept, and that's like it. Oh, no, sorry, that does actually end with the whole Choso's family thing. Never mind. I'm just not a big fan of the setup. The fight was pretty good. The setup, I just didn't enjoy. And of course, Sayama, Nishimuro, and Honda, the bullies, who I guess got what they deserved. Like, I'm not gonna shit on Junpei's, like, revenge. We got another tier of D, though. Takeda, the school groundskeeper at the place that Megumi used to go. I You can tell these D tier characters aren't bad. They're just not important. Again, Bayer, the one who had personality amongst the two, and that he got more voice lines. Like, they were like about to torture him, and he's begging for mercy. That's his personality. Toshihisa Negi, the sword guy, I believe, from the fight just that happens between Trenchcoat guy and Ghetto's former crew right before Jogo fight. That's all I remember about him. I don't remember if he shows up before or anything. Again, low score, low memory. Tadashi Okazaki, the guy. Oh god, was it Cursed Womb? The guy at the not a prison, like a jail or whatever it is, who spots the cursed womb right before it kills everybody. Not a lot to go on there. Juzo, the guy who likes to make coat racks out of your skeleton. He's one note. If you're one note, you go pretty low. Really, he might also just be riding on iconic appearance. Like, I don't know many characters in anime that looks like this guy. Arata Nida, the person who I can only remember showing up once, and that is right there at the end when he appears next to Toto to put our girl into suspended animation. Assuming that she was alive. Well, she was kind of like dead before, too. He might have put a dead person in a suspended animation. I don't know. They clearly left us an out for her to come back. I don't know if she will. I guess those of you who read the manga will know, but I don't like spoilers. Sasaki, the other girl from the school, uh, the like episode 1 or 2 school, which we never go back to again. So, but interesting, I guess, that she got a 19 and Iguchi got an 11, separated by 8 points. But I guess that's because she's the one who instigates opening the finger, not opening the finger, unwrapping the finger, which starts everything. Yuhabara, who I only remember from one hallway scene when Geto was talking to the biker chick that trained Toto. So literally all I know about him. Again, some of these are people you guys elevated. I've probably brought a bunch of numbers down. Sotomura, the teacher, who again I mentioned before, talks to Shoto Ito about bullying, learns his lesson about not overlooking students at the school. And Nobuka Tadaka, who is, of course, the idol that Toto is infatuated with, who we think we've seen once. I mean, I'm not counting Toto's imagination of her. I think we see her once when twice. I think Toto goes to 2 different conventions, and one of them is the one that he brings what's her name with. When it turns out that she's like, I don't want to meet an idol, and then she meets her and is like, she has like all this stuff for her afterwards. Anyway, that was our D tier. Was dragged way too high. Fujinuma. I want to say that's the girl. No, Fujinuma. I do not remember Fujinuma. I was gonna guess she was the girl that had a crush on Yuji back in like middle school, but that's not her. That's not her. Maybe she has something to do with the bridge curse? Uh, don't remember. Unfortunately, same thing for Shigeru Sonata. I don't remember who this guy is. Not a clue. You guys brought him up. Fumi, of course, from the backstory about the village that apparently everyone tried to leave at some point. Locust guy. See, I think Locust guy is an oddity. I don't know why I included him. Probably because he had a voice actor credit. But I didn't include, say, like the first special grade that we ran into, finger holder, whatever it was called. I don't know. He had an interesting back and forth. He literally had a conversation, so I guess worth having. Manami Suda. That's the. It's not the doctor, right? I don't know why I'm suddenly blanking on these people. I know like 90% of them off the top of my head. I don't know why I'm blanking on her all of a sudden. No, it can't be the doctor because she doesn't have the eye things underneath her, and the doctor has those. Anyway, Urume, the mystery person, right up until the very end, where it turns out they've got ice powers and like they're serving both Sukuna and I guess Brain, because I don't know. Urume appears to be serving the appearance of Geto, but they only appear once Geto has turned into Brain, so I have to assume Urume is serving Brain. Ui Ui, who is a weird creepo kid. I say weird creepo kid mostly from the aspect of when he is laying in the bed with Mai Mai, and she's just like, "You want to touch it?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess." And then she's like on the other side of the room. Freaking weird scene. Sumiki Fushiguro, Megumi's sister. Mostly not to be appearing in the show. Because, even Brain's thing gets put on her and she doesn't wake up. So, Akari Nita, mostly, I mean, she appears in the Bridge Curse arc, right? But I mostly remember her for the fight against, oh god, I can't remember his name. The guy who gets lucky. I mostly remember her for that fight there because, she gets really hurt there. But she fights and she does so much more than she does in every other scene that she's in. So I think that's where I bumped her up. When I previously mentioned Trenchcoat Guy, that's what this guy was, Atsuya Kusakabe. By the way, if I'm ruining names left and right, live with it, I guess. I'm never getting better at saying names. I appreciate him more for the end for bringing back up the whole I think we should execute Yuji thing. Because that has been a thing in the back of my mind all this time is that Yuji's eating these fingers with the ultimate goal of um, being executed to try and get rid of Sukuna's powers. So he's at least the payoff of that. I guess also the aspect that he's lazy and wants to avoid work and responsibility vis-a-vis his scenes with Panda. Jiro Awasaka, really weird guy with a real weird power set. The stronger you hit him, the weaker it hurts him, and vice versa. Also, the element that he was like a mercenary for hire in his own backstory. I mostly remember the girl's backstory where she like shape changes to get close to people, and the whole kills the other person's dad and then goes and kills the girl that she's shape changed into. And of course, Wasuke Itadori, the man whose backstory has yet to be given. Like, we spent too much time on him in the beginning, and the element of his death that makes us think that the character is going to be very important. Like, again, I believe Ichigo's dad is what comes to my mind. Like, there's going to be something like that there. And he's just been dead the whole time. Didn't show up in the prequel either, the prequel movie, where you'd think would be his opportunity, because he would have been alive. Anyway, I thought we were actually done with C tier. Nope, got one more row C tier. Takuma Ino, oh god, what's his name? 9 to 5. So I've called him 9 to 5 all this time. I was on the verge of actually having his name on my tongue. Don't have it. The guy who assists him all the time. He gets like one fight, really, in season 2 against a guy who turns into Toji. So, bad luck, rip. This guy's name is actually Laru, but you might have heard me say Lori every fucking time I've ever brought his name up, which is then very confusing because I know there's a guy referenced in the last episode of season 2 whose name actually apparently is Lori. So apparently I may have been like, oh, I said his name, and then they're like talking about a different guy. I don't know. Either way, he's also the one who says, I'm not going down there for this whole ghetto fight thing. So possibly the only ghetto member still alive. Haruta Shigemo, the lucky guy I mentioned before. The only thing I feel like he has going for him was his personality. Like, it was very distinctive personality. And I guess the fight with the 9 to 5er. Sayori, our girl's best friend, or not her, I don't know if she was her best friend. She was one of her 2 friends, her and Fumi, back at their hometown. I don't know if she dies in the Shibuya fight or not, because, I mean, she's not there, but it's kind of implied that she's in the area, and then, the whole area fucking goes up. But there's so many people that are apparently dead, air quoting here, dead, that doesn't actually get shown on screen to be dead. Again, elements I'd be excited for season 3. A lot of payoff from all that fighting that isn't the fighting itself. Anyway, we saw her thinking about her friends and everything. Agami, who I actually got confused while I was taking the quiz, even though I made the quiz myself, because I think I had her listed somewhere else as Granny. God, I forgot the name. Seance, I believe. Seance is the episode that is very important for her. Because she actually managed to bring Toji back from like a sliver of his bone, I think it was. Again, some of these people are very important because of the effect they have on the show. Some of them are very important because of their distinctive appearance. Some of them are very important because of the emotional resonance. I think she's more important because of what she did for the show. Not so much anything about her, except for the fact that I might be thinking about her. I might have been thinking about her when I thought about the girl who could shape change. Yuki Tsukumo, the inspiration, I guess, apparently to Todo, Ghetto, somebody else. Somebody else she inspired. I can't remember who. Also, she shows up there right at the very end and kind of does nothing. She's talking to Brain and like trying to buy time for everyone else to show up, and then Brain just friggin' leaves, and that's it. The world is as it is now. Yoshinobu Gakuganji, or guitar-playing grandpa principal, who I guess, I don't know if he's actually super old or just appears older than he is. Because he doesn't act as old as he is. But I guess maybe he's slightly inspired by, oh shit, now I can't remember his name. The actor from Hammer Films who plays Dracula. Really old guy, but is also a metal singer. So, could have slight inspiration from that. Shoko Airi, the actual doctor. I guess the picture doesn't serve it very well because she does have those like purple mark lines underneath her eyes, which is how I always remember her. And Miguel, who goes off to South America with Yuta. Otherwise, all I remember about him is that the place that he comes from makes really strong rope because he uses it as his weapon, and I believe he calls out that facet when he's doing these attacks. Kyotika Ichiji, our initial handler guy for the group. Pretty sure he dies. Like, I know he gets stabbed in the back multiple times when he's on the bridge overlooking the outside of the, I forget what you call it, the orb thing that they put over to make sure that people can't get in or out. I mean, if he is alive, I'd be super surprised. He gets stabs multiple times. Up to B tier. Yoko Wazawa, that's the girl who had a crush on Yuji in middle school. Not much else to say. I thought it was going to pay off somehow. Did not. Momo Nishimiya. Nishimiya. I guess. Man, like I said, I'm going to screw up all the names. Live with it. Are, oh, what was the name of the movie? It was a Miyazaki film, right? I think. It was like one of the first anime movies I'd ever seen. Kiki's Delivery Service. She's our Kiki's Delivery Service. Nagi Yoshino, Junpei's mom. Sad story. Should have stopped smoking, though. Just put that out there. Going down the way. Mimiko, one of Geto's followers. I think pair of twins. They're either sisters or twins. And I guess also not the one with the phone power, which is funny considering that I had both been joking about Photoshop powered person, and I think maybe Griffin and I had been joking about somebody with phone powers vis-a-vis the start of the second season. So somebody actually showing up and having those powers was just kind of funny. Masato Kurai, what's her name? Anima? Anima, I think it was her name. Their maid, servant, handler person gets kidnapped. Like I said, she has not plot elements, she has story elements. So we start raising up the list of people who are not one note, but have multiple characteristics in the show. Masamachi Yaga, otherwise, if you remember, Justin's favorite character. Shame Justin left everything because, would have been nice to see his reaction to the end of season 2, where this guy is getting blamed for some of the shit. Because finally, his favorite character would have gotten some sort of limelight and possibly a promise to have more upfront action in another season. So would have been good. Dagon, apparently created a beach for everybody and then fought on that beach later. I guess the implication is also that they've been storing up like dead bodies this whole time. Otherwise, not really important except for like 3 or 4 episodes. Nanako, the more important of those sisters. So I already covered Mimiko. Nanako was in the same boat. Really disappointed when they got killed, but I guess they asked too much of Sukuna. My Zanine, I thought was going to be the more interesting Zanine. Well, one of the 2 Zanine girls turned out not to be true. Apparently the other one was the main character. I should have known that when they were on the side of our main protagonist. But then it turns out, in my eyes, not even the most interesting Zanine character. Old man, far more interesting to me. Kasumi Miwa, sad story there with her and Mekamaru. Also, I had her attached to Gojo early on because apparently she had an infatuation with him. But it turns out there was a possibility her and Megumi could have done something. Utahime Yori. I'm going to put this out here. On a listing of the teachers, or even the mercenaries that help the school out sometimes, Urihime is the best of them. I don't mean like fighting skill or anything. I just think she's really cute. I I would rank her higher than Mai or Mei or whatever you call her. I don't know. Also, the first episode of season 2 where they're like going through the school and she's like just can't fucking handle it. It's cute. She's cute. Probably the cutest one in the whole show. Just putting that out there. Toge Unamaki, the guy who can control people with his words, but then has a whole secondary language to actually communicate with people so he doesn't like fuck them up. I don't know. The problem is that I can't get close to a character that I can't understand, and I didn't understand his secondary language until like late in the show. Otherwise, he was just an ally guy that was around to help. You know, including that time that him and Yuji get kind of trapped in a small area to fight. I can't remember what it was, like a dude that was floating halfway into the air, and Togi has to take him out, and they get like a little bonding moment. That's the closest I've gotten to that kid. And of course, Mai, who apparently knows how the market works and can anticipate when a bad guy is about to go off to sell all of her shares in a stock. Otherwise, I guess also pretty good to fight. Really distinctive appearance, but again, I have to think that the inside curve of her hair has to be covered in like spittle and food and shit. Great to look at on the outside. Horrible. Has to smell bad too. Alright, let's go into A tier. Reaching the tops of the list. Now here we go. The guy I said he is the most interesting of the Zanin. One, he has a power set that I think would be comparable to Todo's. Also, the fact that he loses an arm, Todo loses a hand. The fact that the author says that Todo is inspired by Zaraki Kenpachi, I would almost argue that Nabuto feels more inspired by Kenpachi. Because what does Kenpachi do when he's not fighting? He just fucking lazes about. This dude lazes about when he's not fighting. Eso, one of Choso's brothers, very iconic appearance. I think I probably ranked him higher on appearance than anything else. I mean, otherwise, I don't know. Not a lot happens to him beyond the Bridge Curse arc. He's just inspiration for Chozo later. Noritoshi Kamo, blood power guy. Name gets called out later during the final couple of episodes. I don't know. He's powerful. He feels like they could have done more with him, but I just don't like. Not a lot clicks up here in my mind when I think about this guy. Panda, of course, a character who must be living on his distinctive appearance. He's interesting. He's got a cool little multiple power set. Literally, he makes me think of that Naruto character that has a bunch of hearts sewn into him so that he can like pull them out for different powers. It's basically the same thing, but they said like, let's make that guy into a panda. Maki Zanin, who's basically Yuji as a woman, I guess. I mean, they have the same like thing that they both get super powered up, but without having any like curse powers themselves. Otherwise, apparently, just I was wrong that Mai was going to be the main one, and there that's her. Hanami, I would argue I'm not even going to argue because there's no argument to be made. I'm going to say the least interesting of the cursed spirits. I think Hanami is the most emotionally resonant cursed spirit, but not the most interesting. Certainly because they don't do much as compared to the other ones. Mahito. Mahito. Sorry, I know who Mahito is. It's not me. It's not me stumbling about who Mahito is. I'm just figuring out what to say about Mahito. I was almost going to say the most emotionally resonant, but I could see where some people would say Mahito would be the most emotionally resonant. But I think for my money, I resonate more with Jogo. Mahito is certainly one of the more interesting ones to watch. He is the oh god, I'm forgetting his name. Full Metal Alchemist. I've said his name so many times as being a very interesting character that you would never want on your side or to side with. He's that guy. Whatever I've said before about the Full Metal Alchemist guy, that's him. I really enjoy it when he goes full humor mode, but just like when he was fighting Yuji in the subway, and he's on a good riff here in full humor mode, and then he pulls out a hand puppet of Junpei and then stabs it with his other hand. It's like, oh, a little too far there, Mahito. A little too far. Ah, Toto, my guy. Literally had myself drawn as him. Slightly disappointed in the amount of Toto that we got throughout the entire season. Real happy that he's like right there at the very end, though. I get all of my payoff right at the end, and so far, he's evaded my curse where my favorite character dies. So I guess that's a bonus. Plus, I can't imagine any more entertaining scenes than when we go into Toto's mind and see what he thinks is happening. So that's a great payoff. As a reminder, as we're looking up here at the people that are above 40, 50 is as high as you can go. So these characters are top in the list. I mean, you already know we were in A tier, but Nobara Kugisaki, obviously, we've seen what happens to her. We've already discussed by previous characters that she's put into like a suspended animation. We spent a lot of time dealing with her friends from the past. Vis-a-vis flashbacks, we don't spend a lot of season 2 with her, I feel. And the time that we do spend, this is probably what drags her down, by the way, from like S tier or whatever. That fight that she gets in with the guy who's lucky all the time, where she just doesn't nail his sword to the ground when she has the opportunity. Yes, I'm still harping about it. She had the opportunity to avoid most of what happened to her. And not by Mahito. I mean, the injury she gets during that other fight. Or rather, the other girl that gets stabbed in the ass. I'm just saying she should have nailed the sword to the ground. It's her whole thing. Megumi Fushiguro, obviously one of the characters we focus on a lot. Apparently, Sukuna is super interested in him. I'm probably the person that dragged him down because I still don't get it. His power set doesn't seem all that interesting to me. For me, he is just like, I was about to say he was like some sort of emotional heart of the group, but not even that. I feel like Yuji is the emotional heart of the group. He is our Sasuke without all of the baggage that Sasuke has. I don't know. Megumi is a fascinating character that I'm not as interested in as everybody else is. Mechamaru Ultimate, which is, I guess, technically really just Mechamaru. Um, really sad story. I think Mechamaru is riding on his emotional resonance. The scene at the end with Miwa, where they're all thinking about him, or in his still talky thing, where he's giving his like final speech, his death speech. Also, gotta say he's super interesting as a character too, because he's basically like a remotely piloted robot, and then we focus on the guy behind the robot for a bit, and the guy behind the robot is all that emotionality, but he's got like all aspects working for him. the character that isn't him, that he is controlling, is super interesting, super great power set. The character himself hits the emotional resonance. I guess what he misses out on, for me, is what keeps him out of S tier anyway, is significant backstory. Because we know where he is from the outset. Not from the outset, but we know, as soon as we know what he is, what he's dealing with, that is just what he's dealing with. He progresses, but I don't see much development going on in the back end. So I guess that cost him just enough points to stay out of S tier. Jogo, I would argue, would be the leader of the cursed spirits. Obviously, outside of like brain and everything actually telling them what to do. Jogo is the personality of the group that I could, if I had to be one of them, I would be that one of them. Because he's serious, he knows what he wants to get done, he's focused on getting that thing done. He gets angry when you should get angry, he's not laughing when you shouldn't be laughing. I mean, obviously, you could also state that he's got like the strongest of the power sets, but I don't know. He's not. He's not the first one to die. He's not the last one to die. Arguably, he also got into a position that killed him. You know, being the one who had to talk to Sukuna. So if that hadn't happened, he might not have died. Otherwise, yeah, he is my more favorite of the cursed spirits. Yuta Akutsu. Of course, he is in the prequel movie. He's got a pretty touching story. I think him and, was it Rika or Rico? Rika, I think is her name. His story with Rika is very touching. Like the fact that it turns out he cursed her, that whole thing. Sorry, there's a lot of aspects of character, like personality, background, all that shit that I just don't really know how to talk about. It's easier to rank them um, than it is to talk about why you rank them that way. That's probably also a reason why I don't do the actual ranking numbers themselves like live. It would take me so long to figure out every little thing to talk about why. Like, why'd you put this person a 6 and that person a 7? It's easier just to do it and then see how it turns out. Anyway, a lot going on with the movie in Yuta that we all saw, and the movie I felt like better than season 1, so he starts off strong, and then ends the movie strong, and then doesn't appear again until season 2, with the end of season 2, rather, with the promise that he's going to be kind of an antagonist, it feels like. If you think that Yuji is still the main character, it feels like he's going to be the antagonist. Otherwise, he's going to be the protagonist of season 3, the main character, who then Yuji would be the Vegeta to, the anti-hero who's still doing good things. I don't know. Like I said, really excited for season 3 because it could go so many ways. Choso, the surviving brother who's got a chip on his shoulder, had a chip on his shoulder about all that. Except now I don't know what the fuck is going on with Choso. The whole Yuji's my brother, and now everybody else is kind of related to me now as well. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I'm still very confused after the Choso Yuji fight. That said, still a very interesting character. If you've ever watched Dead Man Wonderland, he's the guy I keep referencing to Dead Man Wonderland. Except the guy in Dead Man Wonderland would have passed out like after the first fight because he doesn't get his blood back or anything. What he does, what Choso does. Very surprising, Ryumin Sukuna not making S tier. Sukuna, or I know I probably still say Sakuna sometimes. Down in A tier. Probably due to the limited number of times he actually does anything. Like, he gets real shown off in season 2 with the 2 major fights that he gets in. And the idea that he has goals and everything. he'd probably be S tier if he got more screen time. Also, he'd probably be S tier if he was a little bit more clear about what he was up to, because otherwise it's more plotting and planning and then doing fun stuff when he's out, but otherwise, it's not there yet. And finally, really the same score between them. Kento Nanami, I know he's a lot of fan favorites. 9 to 5er, he'll always be in my head, even if he is even if he's been Gus Fringed, which I think I said during that episode. I don't know. For me, I really liked his backstory. I really liked the elements of emotionality that I got from him when he finally displayed them. Like, he was very cold for a lot of it, but there was an emotionality that came out later on. Certainly loved it when he went into overtime. I also loved that his power set, his ultimate power was overtime, because overtime is just really cool as a name, but the fact that I always call him 9 to 5er because he's a, businessman or former businessman, overtime having that second definition to it, really good. Really enjoyed it. And finally, we have S tier. Anyone with a score of 45 to 50. Of course, the main character of the show has to be an S tier. You're doing a bad job with your main character if your main character isn't in S tier, because typically they're the character we spend most of our time with. Well, this is where Yuji's at. I don't feel like I have to talk a lot about Yuji. He's the main character. He's there from episode 1, skips out on the movie, comes back in season 2. Well, a couple of episodes into season 2 anyway. He does a pretty good job of staying really important for a character that doesn't show up for the entirety of the show. Yeah, also he was dead for a while. I guess I did have a lot to say about Yuji. Not too much, though. Toji might be one of my favorite characters. I was really excited when Toji came back from the dead, and I really wanted to see what would happen when he ran into Megumi, and I was really happy with the way they played it. When him and when he realized who Megumi was, that was really good. I was reminded of something earlier today when I was looking back at previous reactions of mine to specifically one scene with Toji in it, and that's when he shoots the girl in the head. That Toji is a guy who uses fucking swords all the time. Why was he carrying a gun? Anyway, cool character. Cool character. Also, not to be not mentioned, the fact that Yuji kind of has a matching scar to what Toji had, except it's on this side of his face. Sorry, can't see that. On this side of his face, whereas Toji is on that one. Rika outranking Yuta. Because again, I think the emotionality I have for what was happening in the movie is centered more on Rika, especially when you find out that Yuta cursed Rika. And, she has that whole, hey, we're young kids at school, let's get married when we get older, and then something horrible happens to one of them, and she's the one that carried both the emotionality of, let's get married when we're older, and the bad thing happened to her. I don't know. Again, I don't feel a whole lot for Yuta that doesn't ride on Rika. So, in my perspective, Yuta is probably being lifted up by Rika's story. Rico Amani. I think I'm saying that right. Again, real touching story. And I was really leaning on Ghetto saying, let's go home. Not his home, obviously, but I was really leaning on that. And then when she gets fucking shot in the head, I know the channel is called Stone Faced Reactions. I was as stone faced as I ever was, but it fucking upset me. And again, why was he carrying a gun? He's a sword guy. I don't know, he didn't have to use a sword all the time, but that's the one and only time he used a gun. Fuck, man. Anyway, I also don't like the idea that she has been like living her life waiting to be sacrificed, and then she gets this one opportunity to, have a life, and she like finally takes that step to have it, shot in the fucking head, never to come back. Fuck. Junpei. I feel like the S tier is gonna be filled with a couple of sad stories. You got Rika, sad story. Rico, sad story. Junpei, sad story. I mean, we all know that he is covered with like cigarette burn marks on this side of his face. At least Junpei and Rika at least got some sort of revenge on those that would have done them harm. Unfortunately, Junpei only starts to get that revenge. Uh, because Mahito betrays him right there at the very end. So, in that respect, I don't know. Junpei has a very involved story that I would say only like Rico gets, because unfortunately for Rika, it's a Yuta that gets most of that story. So these two share that quality of being used by others. Sorry, I'm just realizing now, Rika is also technically being used by others. I don't know. There's this whole spectrum right here of characters that are kind of the same, all in S tier. Anyway, the two people who scored 1 point higher than those two, Geto and Gojo, because of course, how could they not? So many people gave these people straight tens. So again, I have to think I'm the one dragging them down, but they've literally been dragged down equal measure, so it doesn't even matter. For my money, Geto is the more, I don't want to say powerful, more powerful to me emotionally, backstory. Like Gojo's death and power up and everything like that, I don't actually care. I guess I feel for Gojo. I think I've said this before. Maybe I feel for Gojo what most people feel for Superman, and that to me he's too strong to be interesting. And for me, he also doesn't have a personality that makes him interesting. I'll also put this out there: Superman is my favorite superhero, so I'm not actually saying that I feel that for Superman. I'm just saying I feel that maybe that's what people feel for Superman that I feel for Gojo. We spent more time with Ghetto's backstory and how he makes that change to become that sort of anti-hero person that he wants to be in the movie, or he wants to be, that he determines to probably be the change in society that's necessary. That biker lady kind of talks him into as well. And then what he does with that cult to try and use them to achieve his goals. And yes, there's the element that he's also Brain in season 2, and I did not rank Brain, I ranked Ghetto. I guess there's an element here that I'm also human, and I handle everything on the channel's back end. No matter what co-hosts you may see, I'm the one doing everything. So sometimes I just give myself a little bit too much, and I mess stuff up, like putting people on these ranking charts twice. It happens way often. Anyway, the uh, the ranking here is for Ghetto as a whole, so there might be elements of stuff Brain has done seeping into Ghetto's ranking, but that is where he lies. So yeah, this is the ranking of all the characters that I remembered for Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1, the movie, and Season 2. So other than that, I also have a top 5 episodes, and this is sort of also off the top of my head. I mean, it's not off the top of my head. I made a list. It is my things I'll say about the episode will be off the top of my head. They'll be short. They'll be succinct. They'll be nowhere as long as the character ranking, because I really just thought, what are the episodes I remember more strongly? What are the episodes I thought were best? I think they're probably not going to align with most people's opinion on what the best episodes were. I guess I'm just putting it out there up front. Don't think about this too strongly. This is just something I decided to do last second. So for me, my number 5 would be To You Someday, Season 1, Episode 12. Mahito definitely uses Yoshino's admiration toward him to make him fight Itadori. Yoshino races towards vengeance, and Itadori exchanges blows with him to try and make him explain his motive, which leads to him learning the cruel truth from Yoshino's lips. That's when Mahito creeps up beside them, and ... I ranked it number 5 because it's the death of Junpei, whose story has been a major contributing factor, like them spending time together, spending time with his mother, finding out that Mahito is like betraying him. We have the whole fight against Mahito that happens in the episode. We get a little bit more of Kento development, which I know some people will enjoy. But yeah, I think when I think of good episodes of Jujutsu Kaisen, I think of the entire Junpei arc, and this is the finality to the Junpei arc. I almost considered putting the previous episode into it, because that's when Junpei kind of like does the whole school thing. Like the very end of the episode, he's starting to get revenge on the people. I mean, some of them did nothing to him, but that I almost thought was more important than Junpei's death, but no, I had to lean into Junpei's death on this one. My number 4 is Season 2, Episode 3, Hidden Inventory 3. Gojo and Geto beat back the curse users after the bounty placed on Amani's head when her cell phone rings. A captured Kore is displayed on her phone. Gojo tries to bring Amani back to Jujutsu High, but she insists on going to the negotiations herself. Now, the episode description doesn't really have any of the stuff that I ranked this episode as my number 4 for, which is, 1, this is the episode where Amani gets shot in the fucking head when Geto is like, you could live the life you want to live, you don't have to do this. They call this erasure or whatever when we were being sent out on this mission. Again, the impact of that sudden the twist in the episode where it feels like Geto is giving her an out and then she gets fucking shot in the head. And then obviously before that it looks like Gojo is dead, but we know that Gojo couldn't have been dead anyway because this is a prequel to everything that's happened in Season 1. So it'd be really weird if Gojo died here and then showed up later. But then again, happens to Geto, so why not Gojo? That would have been a reveal either way. But for me, literally it's number 4, all because of the Amani stuff. My number 3 would be Season 1, Episode 24, Accomplices. The Cursed Wombs, Death Paintings, Eso, and Kochizu face off against Itadori and Kugisaki, but the two being to rot after they've bathed in the blood of Eso and Kochizu. Sorry, also one of them not appearing on the character ranking list. I apologize, I forgot after I had written it all out. Driven into a corner, Kugisaki hammers a nail into herself to activate resonance and start a game of chicken with the two brothers. Itadori refuses to stop and continues to attack Kochizu, but this whole mission began with one of Ryumen Sukuna's fingers, so will Itadori, Kugisaki, and Fushiguro ultimately make it home to Jujutsu Tech safely? That was a weird turn. Sorry, I'm also reading like descriptions of the episodes so that you remember what I'm talking about here. For my money, it's Kugisaki's best episode. The fight at the very end is the best fight scene in the entire season of the show. So, I mean, basically, I put it on as my number 3 for that. Also, when I was trying to think what if I was going to put a Kugisaki episode on here specifically, and I'm weighing it against her backstory episode, from right after or right when she was about to die. Or maybe the fight with the guy whose sword she did not hammer into the ground when she should have. I thought this was the best one. I don't know how many times she uses resonance in the show, but her use of resonance here with the whole cursed blood and the way that her visual looks during the fight, plus the payoff to Choso feeling this while they're playing, I think it was a game of life with all the other ghetto gang or brain gang, as it turns out to be. It's a good payoff, and it was a good fight. So, number 3. My number 2, Season 2, Episode 21, Metamorphosis. After rescuing Itadori from his predicament, Todo bolsters his morale and encourages him to stand back up. As Mahito kicks things into higher gear, he begins using soul multiplicity and body repel to unleash omnidirectional attacks. It is an amazing Todo episode once his necklace snaps off with that great fight scene with his idol. Now, I know that it says it's in his imagination, but I like to believe it's happening in real life in that his visual of everything is his imagination. It is, ironically, even though this is my number 2 and we have another one going forwards, I would say it's Toto's second best fight. Because obviously there was one in the subway that you got more of the acid visuals for. But I think there's more payoff to this one for him saving Yuji right at the very end to keep Yuji fighting. I don't know. There is so much I love about Toto that I had to pick one of all of his fight scenes, and I picked the one we get from Metamorphosis to put in front of everything. So that's why this is here. Wait a second. Did I misnumber these? Hold on a second. To You Someday, number 5. Hidden Inventory, number 4. Accomplices, number 3. Metamorphosis, number 2. Yep, I apologize. I have misnumbered these in that I actually picked a top 6. So, as it turns out, To You Someday is my number 6. Hidden Inventory, number 3 is my number 5. Accomplices is my number 4. Metamorphosis is my number 3. And Season 2, Episode 16, Thunderclap, is my number 2. I actually have one above this, so I fucked up and I wrote a top 6 list. Sukuna refuses to heed Jogo's advice after waking up, instead displaying his overwhelming strength against the special grade cursed spirit Jogo. Meanwhile, Fushiguro faces off against the rampant Toji, with neither being aware of the other's identity. I don't know why I have to tell you guys why this would be on number 2. It's the first episode. I think the first episode of Thunderclap is better than the second, though, because Jogo is a character we have attachment to, versus the Shikigami that Megumi summons at being a good fight, but lacking in the emotional resonance of 2 characters that I'm invested in. Also, Toji realizing who Megumi is and taking himself out was amazing. I think I mentioned that earlier on. The element of realizing that you're kin and, oh, you're doing exactly what I had hoped for you when I handed you off as a child. Or didn't actually hand him off. He said some words to Gojo. Yeah, there's just so much there. And again, of the Sukuna fights, I have to say that I think Thunderclap, his fight against Jogo, is better than the Megumi Shikigami fight. Because I don't give a shit about the Shikigami. Literally, the only thing at threat there is Sukuna. Because if the Shikigami wins, I don't fucking care. Versus Jogo versus Sukuna, that is 2 people I care about. Well, I don't care about. I don't care about either of them. I'm invested in both of them, I should say. Which leaves my number one, Season 2, Episode 15, Fluctuations, Part 2. Nanami, Maki, and Nabuto are driven to the edge after the special grade cursed spirit Dagon activates his domain expansion, Horizon of the Captivating Sukanda. Fushiguro gives them a glimpse of a way to escape death, then Toji intrudes upon the fight. Literally, the Toji fight, for me, is so much better than the Sukuna fight. Toji is a guy who is like Olympian strength. Like, he just has... He is the embodiment of Maki and Yuji, and everybody that is just like, we don't have regular powers, we got everything just built in. He is so good, and seeing him whoop everyone's ass, including a special grade cursed spirit and the head of the Zenin clan and everybody, that he just runs ripshot through them all. So much better to me than the Sukuna I can destroy a city fight, because it's so much grounded, but at the same time, everyone is on par with one another. Like, I know when I say on par with one another, you obviously say, no, he like kicked everyone's ass. They're not on par with him. I mean, the power sets are on par. None of them do something like, if Toji tried to fight Sukuna, Sukuna would melt everything in rain. Sukuna would not fight Toji on Toji's level. Whereas the fight that Toji's in Fluctuations Part 2, is all of the same caliber. Nobody can do something that Toji cannot respond to. So, I don't know. I found it visually... Also, it's... Here's the thing. Sukuna fighting Jogo, Sukuna fighting the Shikigami, is happening in the darkness. It's being lit up by all these amazing explosions, but it's happening at nighttime. The fight with Toji and everybody is happening in a domain expansion, which means it's happening on a clear, bright as day beach. It's fun visual to watch in the background of the fight as well. Either way, as I said, I anticipate many people are going to disagree with me, especially if there's people more interested in the show than I am, who have their own top fives, and they're going to be like, no way, Fluctuations as your number one, Fluctuations Part 2 as your number one? How could you put that amongst the Shikigami fight against Sukuna? Like, well, I'm not going to be able to explain it to everybody. I'm just putting it out there into the ether. You debate this amongst yourselves. Either way, that has been my top 6, as it turns out. Apparently, I was so out of it, I went to make a top 5. I made a top 6. I go one beyond. And that has been the character rankings. So I think that's going to be it for Jujutsu Kaisen. Again, until Season 3 comes out. Unless they do a movie in between, like they did last time, Season 1 to Season 2. In which case, I'll see you next time for a movie. But then, if not, until Season 3, I've been Theta. This has been Stoneface Reactions. And then we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stoneface Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this video, what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?